Hey, everybody, I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions. I almost forgot my own business name there for a minute, where we have a mission to change the world one brave word at a time. That just means I need a second cup of coffee, you guys. Here today to help me with that amazing mission are some of the authors of a new book that we have coming out, Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 3 Powerful Healers, Spiritual Stories. These women are sharing powerful stories of their spiritual journeys. Dianna and I joked a little bit about this, like spiritual coming out stories, right? Some of you are sharing stories for the very first time. I actually happen to be one of the authors in this collaboration, so this is really fun for me too. And this is the third book in our series from lead author Dianna Leeder. This is part of her Voices of Women project. And I'll start by saying thank you to Dianna for getting this amazing group of authors together. This has been an incredible collaboration, the energy of this particular book. Like I said, I have a little special place in my heart for this topic. So I'm excited to introduce you all to the 4 authors I have here today. I've got a little old school notes with me today, you guys. My computer's been acting up this week. So I'm going to read here. Joy Reeser inspires love, peace, and joy through her presence and offerings. Laura McKinnon is a yoga teacher, writer, mother, and owner of a yoga studio that inspires wellness within her communities and around the world. I have Sherry Welsh with me, a yoga teacher who helps her students discover both their inner peace and their inner fierce. And Tiffany Marie Warner. Did I get that wrong, Tiffany? Did I get your last name wrong? Okay.
No, right on.
All right, excellent. I wonder sometimes the coffee will kick in. She is the founder and owner of Body and Soul Connection. She's an intuitive mentor and teacher, evidential medium, light channel, and energy healer whose purpose is to guide people in reawakening their soul's wisdom and innate connection. Welcome, ladies. Super happy to have you here today. So let's start the party with Joy. Joy, tell us about the amazing chapter that you wrote for this book.
Oh, thank you, Laura. Hello, everyone. I wrote chapter 13, Letters to the Future. I took a journaling class right before we moved. My husband moved me from Northeast Ohio to the mountains of Western North Carolina, and then asked for a divorce after 1 year in the mountains. But when I wrote those letters to the future, I shifted from fear of my future to excitement to my future. And this spiritual journey I had so much fun writing it, how my throat chakra opened. I went from this to this, and divinity visited me and said, we're all one. Separation is an illusion. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you're not going to get away with saying that your husband asked you for a divorce and like, oh, I did all that. Like, oh my gosh, Joy. Okay, so first of all, thank all of you for being so brave to share these kinds of stories, right? But I know a little bit about that experience, enough to say, whoa, like you had to have done some work. We call it that spiritual work before, to be able to get through probably what people call the worst year of their lives, the worst times of their life. Just tell me a little bit more about that experience.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. I had been already on a healing journey. I had written in my journal for many, many days in a row, maybe months, a prayer to become who I am. So when we moved and this man said this to me, I got hit with a black cloud in my gut, and I heard in it a voice, maybe it was my higher self, take in this darkness. You need it. I have goosebumps. You are going to transmute it. So yeah, I And I knew when the divorce happened, people hold on to that. They live in their divorce for 15 or 20 years. And I knew those women. And I said, I am not going to be that person. I'm going to feel this, heal through it, and come out on the other side. And it took me 9 months to forgive that man and to feel like I wasn't telling that story to everybody that I met.
Thank you, Joy. You're helping me remember one of the biggest missions that I have with this company and these books, and that is to wake up the world to what's possible for healing. And if Joy didn't just do that, I don't know, who has, because she's basically saying, I was looking around at all of the typical habitual conditioned reactions to this problem. And I knew I was going to do it differently. I knew I was going to take that and turn it into something that could be really, really amazing. And so I want our listeners today, our viewers today, to really understand that just because you see something happening a certain way doesn't mean it has to be the way that it happens for you. So I appreciate you telling that piece of your story, Joy. So Laura, let's move to you now. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Thank you. Good morning. So yes, I wrote chapter 11, Signs from Spirit, Reminders of Hope, Faith, and Love. And essentially, the whole chapter is just really about the remembrance that we are never alone in this world, that Spirit is always with us. And not only are they always with us, but they are constantly guiding us through lots of ways, presenting different signs and symbols in our own lives. And the trick is just one, remembering that, believing that, and then trusting that we can see those signs. And kind of relate it to like when you purchase a brand new car, right? Whatever color and model, make, and car you bought, all of a sudden it seems like you're seeing them everywhere, all over the place, like out of nowhere. Everyone's driving the same car that you just bought. And so I kind of feel the same, like my experience of the loss of our second child kind of catapulted me into the doorway, really, of the spirit world, if you will. And that's how I felt. It's like once you just acknowledge even seeing one, all of a sudden you see more and more and more, and you just notice them all the time.
Can you talk a little bit about what maybe one or two of the signs are for you?
Yeah, specifically with my son.
Or anything, just to give our viewers an idea of like what's even possible there. I know that when the big birds fly by, for me, it's like hawks and eagles. Like I just look up and go, okay, thank you. Because for me, it's you're on the right track, Laura. Like just keep going, just keep doing what you're doing, that type of thing. So what are some of them for you? I'm just curious. Uh-oh. You there with me, Laura? I can't tell if she froze or if she can't hear us. I can see. Oh, there you are. Okay, Laura, now I can hear you. Did you hear my question?
I did. So yeah, probably the first one that comes to my mind, and I don't remember at what point in childhood, but I remember hearing, when a feather appears, an angel is near. That's probably one of the most frequent signs that I'll just randomly notice. I might be at the beach, I might be walking my dog. Sometimes it's just a random single feather that just floats out of nowhere from the sky, towards me, or I might just glance down and notice it on the ground. And in those moments of like when something I see, kind of like what you were saying, and I just know in that moment, exactly, I'm not alone, I'm being heard, I'm being guided to just know that I have support.
I love that. I wonder how many healers have a feather as their thing.
Right? Yeah, I mean, and I know that that's a very common one for many, but I do want to say that also there will be unique ones, especially when we talk about connecting to loved ones that we've lost. They will send us very specific ones. So I'll give you one more quick example, if I may. We had a beautiful family of Springer Spaniels for a long time, and our mama dog, we had 3 litters with her, Mama Kai. When it was time to say goodbye to her, I was devastated. And one of her nicknames for her was Ladybug. We always called her Ladybug. And I pleaded with her, whispering in her ear. I said, please let me know you're okay. I want to see a ladybug. And literally within about 3 minutes of when she took her last breath with us, I was outside in the yard with her. This ladybug floated onto my shoulder. And I just knew instantly that that was her spirit coming to say, I heard you, Mom, and I'm letting you know I'm okay.
Oh, I love that so much. I know that we, in this, at least in this Zoom room, we all pay attention to things like that. And that to me is like just the magic of life. It's absolutely magic. Thank you so much, Laura.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Sherry, let's move to you. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here, and thanks for the opportunity. And I'm just so excited to be a part of this amazing and impactful project. I wrote chapter 7, The Beauty of Impermanence, How I Expanded My Awareness Through the Breath. The title actually came to me after I wrote the chapter, because I sort of wanted to go through my experiences through my life, kind of what led up to sort of a pivotal moment of when a really good friend of mine, her daughter, passed away from cancer pretty suddenly within a couple of weeks. Her daughter was only a couple of years older than mine. My daughter is now almost 4. She never got to see her 4th birthday. So from that point, a lot of things started to happen as far as like spiritual awakening. I started going to various gatherings and circles, and just wanted to understand more about life and like, why are we even here? Like, why are we on this earth? What's our purpose? This question has come to me, of course, throughout my life, but that particular event really sort of catapulted me into this discovery of myself, and being more present with my family and that kind of thing. So I sort of started writing through my experiences in my life and like kind of what led me up to that point. And then after that, how I continue to sort of learn about myself and my purpose. And then I realized, oh, everything is a cycle. Like nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary, even your own breath. And that connects right back into my yoga practice, into my teaching. And I really, my goal is to really help my students tap into that part of themselves as far as connecting with the breath and then seeing like what comes out of there. So that's sort of a general rundown of the chapter.
I think that, and we talked about this in another interview, the breath is such a profound entry point to healing and awareness. And I learned that in some of my own breath work and some teachers and mentors who taught me different ways. There's a million different ways, right? What else do you want to say about breath work?
Breath work, there's a whole world of, it's actually called pranayama in yoga, life force. And so there's an entire practice behind just the breath itself. And that's something I'm continuing to learn about. My practice is mostly around hatha yoga and vinyasa, and also with children's yoga, trying to teach a child how to breathe properly. And even just breathing, there's so many creative ways. You have candle breath, you have feather breath. Speaking of feathers with Laura. So yeah, it's just, there's a whole world of it's not just what you know of like breathing in and out or deep breathing. I can't even begin to start to describe the different methods of breath and breathing and the practice behind there.
And I knew that would be part of your answer because it's all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, you guys, breath work, like you have to know about this. And we walk around breathing all day long because we have to stay alive, you know, that little thing. But do we walk around it? I think it's more about noticing how we're breathing when we're walking around all day long. And I don't know about you all, but if you catch yourself in a shallow breathing pattern, or you catch yourself holding your breath and actually like tensing and holding there's so many, like Sherry said, so many ways to explore the breath work world. It's awesome. Totally profound. So thank you, Sherry. Let's go to Tiffany and hear all about her amazing chapter.
Oh my goodness. Hearing all of your guys' stories is just, this has been beautiful. So thank you for this. And Sherry, as you're talking about breathwork, I'm sitting here like, oh yes, that's right. Let's breathe. Okay, so my chapter title, well, first my chapter is chapter 21. And my title is You May Love Differently, Healing Through Trauma. And in my chapter, I write about a very specific time in my life where I had undergone an enormous personal transformation. More accurately, I met the true beauty of myself, and I experienced aspects of my unlimited self that weren't ever previously revealed, or maybe revealed in a sense where I allowed myself to envelop it and honor it. And so my story is that of simple truth and the clarity of the unlimited aspect of myself within this single moment that I shared. And as I wrote my chapter, it presented incredible healing, a much greater release than I even expected. And Laura, you speak about this often, about how sharing our brave words and how transformative it is. And then it's always so fascinating to me how quickly my reality changed. Yet it wasn't until I later realized how it had taken on many different moments of my life within my time here, for me to be able to arrive at this place. So the beauty in meeting myself gave me choice, a profound resonance of self-permission and living in this place in all ways. A permission of freedom is really what my story is.
Oh, I love so many things about what you just said. I wrote down, I met the true beauty of myself. Yeah. I love that. And I love even more that you let us be a fly on the wall of one moment, but the whole idea that one moment of your life can be a complete opening to what's possible and a transformation right there in that one little tiny moment. It can be that, I don't want to say fast, but it can be that fast in that one moment that you experience. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, how that one moment in time, how it alters us in a way of embracing it and embodying it, because it when it happens, there's so much truth there. And when we see ourselves in that truth, there's this incredible unbinding that happens, this like release of enslavement that we do throughout our lives. And embodying the true beauty of self is that freedom. And it's that moment of stepping into truths. And Laura, you were speaking about this, about or is it Lori? Sorry. Speaking about this in like finding the feathers, that one interaction. And it's like you find yourself almost craving it because it feels so good and it is so healing and it is so uplifting. And it's like, wait, how can I have more of this? How can I bring more of this into my life? And that's what it's truly become.
Yes. So, and it's Laura. You got the double Lauras here today, by the way, everyone. So this is awareness, you know, to have moments of awakening, to have transformational moments, to have little moments of healing, to have these things happen to you, amazing viewers right now, I'm speaking to you, you have to have a practice of awareness. And that looks differently for everybody. And so it's why I'm going to ask all of these amazing authors this next question. And Laura, I'm going to start with you for this. To me, being a healer is about guiding people on this journey into that awareness practice. And I'm just curious, what does your awareness practice look like on the day-to-day? Give us an idea.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that question. As I think for many people, it can be very fluid and change, but essentially I start every day with quiet time. I get up really early because I have small kids at home, so I have to be awake before they're awake to have that. And I actually specifically call upon my higher self and the support from those guiding me to help me to be clear about seeing what is presented to me each and every single day. So I find that just, it's like, spirits will send us signs all the time, whether we ask for them or not. But when we specifically ask for them, they are sent directly and in a more profound way. It's like, hey, you asked for this and we want you to notice this. So I find that just starting my day that way every single day really helps me to stay connected and in tune with that, and I do have a regular yoga practice. I'm a yoga teacher. So there's moments in my life all day long where I'm able to, not only for myself, but work in that capacity with other people. But that small moment in the morning, just starting my day every way, it makes all the difference.
I love that you're talking about this. This was something that I didn't really get taught until much later in my life. I really didn't know to ask. And it's such a simple thing. And we have to have an idea that we are connected to that something bigger, the who we are asking. And I spent years like walking around to different coaches and things going, I don't know who my guides are. I don't know who that posse is. I need to understand who I'm asking to. And I think one person finally said, it doesn't even really matter. All it matters is really that you're just asking. And so just ask for the support, right?
Because they know. So even if you don't know what you're asking for, just say, you know what I need, and just ask for that. And just trusting in that is the most important thing.
Yes.
I'd like to comment here, if I may, to
Please.
just kind of stand on that. Sometimes, at least in my experience, I didn't even really ask for any signs after the loss of my friend's daughter. The signs just started to present themselves. I think my higher power and my guides also they did recognize that I was going through something, and they started to provide these signs to me, and I was seeing them everywhere. But I was paying attention to them. So I think also having an open heart, maybe not knowing what those questions are, having an open heart and just seeing what happens is also, that could be pretty powerful as well.
No doubt. Yes. Okay. So Sherry, you were next on this next question anyway, so perfect timing. What's your awareness practice look like on the day-to-day? Just giving our listeners some ideas about how you guys actually practice the awareness.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, try to be as present as I can. I do have a young daughter at home. She's almost 4. And, since she was born, I remember when she was first born, I was trying to find ways to distract myself because I was going through a lot of postpartum anxiety and depression. So I was always on my phone or on my tablet, she didn't care. She was so little, so, but my husband noticed. He did say some things, and I finally was like, oh, I need to be present here. So the biggest thing I do on my day-to-day now is I just try to be as present as possible and put my device away if I absolutely don't need to be on it. Unfortunately, as part of my work, I do need to be on social and that kind of thing, but I dedicate a certain amount of time for that. But when I'm with my daughter, I'm 100% with my daughter as much as I can be. There's always going to be distractions here and there, but the awareness for me is more presence and just being there for her, my husband, and for loved ones as much as I can. And because we moved away, we moved from the East Coast over to Lake Tahoe. A lot of my family's still on the East Coast. So we just try to connect with them as much as possible through Zoom and phone calls and that kind of thing too. So the awareness for me is that presence and also the connection.
You all know that your presence is probably the ultimate gift you give another human being, no matter who that human being is. And I think in the day of the digital and all the screens, it's become even 1,000 million more times important to understand this. That when we actually put those things down and we're not looking at one thing, trying to listen to somebody or looking at, doing the multitasking. I'm so glad you brought that up, Sherry, because I've been practicing as well. I'm not great all the days because I have to be everywhere for all the things too. But with my kids, especially, and the people that I love who live with me in the house, I've seen their looks on their faces when they can tell I'm multitasking, and it sort of just like hits my heart a little bit, right? And I'm like, all right, Laura, you got to be a little better about this. Like, just put your stuff down. Yeah. So, okay. So Tiffany, how does your awareness practice look?
I am a very structured person, so I had to create a early morning ritual for myself. And so in that, I developed a daily prayer that I bring forward with breath work, with a time of uninterrupted stillness. And my prayer is set up to be very intentional in calling in my higher self and calling in a deeper sense of presence and awareness within my heart. I drop my thinking mind into my heart and I ask for that to guide me throughout my day. I have a 19 and 20-year-old. And it's funny because I used to feel like it's the younger kids that are so demanding of our presence because they keep us going. But then I've seen how over the years there is this evolution of emotional intelligence that becomes so demanding with older kids. And so I'm seeing myself have to be so present in these tiny little moments of exchanges that are happening between us because it isn't constant. And so it's like, okay, how can I value this? How can I nurture these moments? And some days I need multiple micro pauses throughout my day to say, okay, bring myself back in. Let's take a couple deep breaths. So sometimes it has to happen a couple times in the day, and sometimes some days it's one and done, but it is that conscious choice of stepping into a new day and saying, okay, today I'm going to be as most present as I can with my higher self, with my guiding light.
Yes, everyone so far is talking about that presence being so important. You're reminding me too, that part of my own practice, I catch myself in future thinking so much, like what's going to happen? What if this, what if that? I've gotten much better at not hanging on to the past ones. That I don't know why that seems easier to me, to be in the present from the past, but the future stuff gets me, right? So the presence practice that so far all of you are talking about, an aspect of that is so incredibly important. I love these conversations. I love to play in the sandbox with my healer friends. Joy, what do you have to add? Tell us about your daily practice.
Thank you so much. All of this is so fabulous. I have had a daily spiritual practice for eons, and it brings me amazing days. It includes a gratitude practice too. But what was coming up for me with the conversation is that I am so present so much of my days. So the awareness, for example, yesterday, I had Pilates in the morning, and I had this, and I did errands, and then I had an interview with Laura for another book that I wrote a chapter in. And then I took a walk and at the beginning of the walk with my partner, I said, my legs feel tired. We had been away for 2 weeks. So the Pilates, I worked so hard. But after the walk, we came back and I'm like, I feel differently. I feel better. I'm going to mow the back lawn while you're cooking dinner. I have goosebumps because this moment to moment feeling into what am I feeling? What is mine to do now has changed everything about my life. So that if a person called me and said, or texted and said, I really need to talk to you, I would feel into, am I able to be there for that person at this moment? And I could write back and say, dear one, bless you. I can talk to you in 2 hours. I am living moment to moment awareness of what works the best for me and for the people in my life.
I love that, Joy. You're helping me remember that when I don't do that and I don't prioritize myself, then I'm not really serving the other person by saying yes when I kind of mean no. And this topic, right? It's a big topic for all of us. And I was just sitting here asking myself the question, oh man, how many times have I said sure, when really it wasn't the best time, like I couldn't fully give. But I was saying sure because I care about them, not for any bad reason. It's just that we need to make sure to prioritize to keep ourselves healthy.
Yeah, there's that awareness that anchors in boundaries, so we can be unconditional for ourselves and for the individual that needs us, right? Being fully present in both ways. Yeah. And Joy, I love how you touched on gratitude. Of course, gratitude all day, all day.
I think that the gratitude is a foundational practice that we've all learned. Gratitude, appreciation. I've heard a lot about up-leveling to the word appreciation. It has an interesting, different vibration. So I love playing with all of that. Yes, gratitude and love and joy and all of the goodness. So I have this next juicy question for all of you, and I'm going to start with Sherry for this one, okay? So I'm going to read my notes on this one too, because it's a little bit long, but I think you guys are going to understand this. So there's so much in life that we can't see, but we believe it. We have the belief, even though we can't see it. I know that part of sharing our spiritual stories is to help give other people permission to have the conversations about those kinds of things, to help them feel not alone in those things that they believe, but they can't see, right? But really, it's about providing that kind of community. And each of you has a story about what your spiritual community has meant to you, how it's looked in the past, how it's evolving, what it means to you now. So I just want to hear about that, Sherry. How has it been for you in terms of having that community?
It's been very powerful for me. I mean, rewinding a little bit, I never even thought I would be a yoga teacher. I just went to training because I wanted to learn more about yoga and myself, my body and the spirit. And everyone I practiced with said, no, you have it. You need to teach. And so that's where I started to dabble with that a little bit. And then now, since we've moved to Lake Tahoe, I really dove into the community, and I've just been, speaking of gratitude, so grateful for that experience. But you touched on something, things that people believe but can't see. That reminded me of actually experience or conversation I had with my father maybe about like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I would talk about these things and these signs, and his response would sort of be like, that's kind of baloney. He would sort of like look at me like, okay, Sherry. But then he told me about experiences that he had when he was a child of seeing things and he was telling me things and I'm like, oh, so this is kind of that experience where he's seeing, but not necessarily believing in these. But I know there's a part of him that knows that this is real, and that there is the spirit world, the metaphysical world that exists out there. My husband's a little bit similar to him. He's a little bit skeptical about this stuff, but I know he believes, and he sees signs. He believes those signs too. So, but I find it so funny with my father. He was always sort of not making fun of me, but just sort of like, teasing me a little bit about that. But then he shared his own story about, he's seeing spirits when he was a child and avoiding certain areas of the backyard with his sister because, or even just trying to explore more about that. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. But as far as the community concerned, I'm so grateful for the people I've met. It's been a lot easier to meet people in a place where we didn't know anybody here a year ago through the yoga community here. So.
Awesome. I know that yoga communities can be particularly tight, and for all of these same reasons, you can have conversations about things. And you all heard me joke about playing in the sandbox with you all, but that's really, for me, has been a profound shift in terms of the people I hang out with and what we can talk about and what we share with each other, and the permission that we're giving back and forth to share our own stories. It's what this book is all about. So I love it. Thank you. Tiffany, how about you? So that was a loaded question, right? There was a lot in there. What does that community look like for you, and how's it evolved, and all the good stuff about that?
Well, when I started this work with an intention of it being my career, my professional path, very early on, I coined a tagline. I teach oh my God, I'm so nervous. I teach the invisible, so to make it visible. And it does become these moments that, Sherry and Laura and Joy and you, Laura, we're all talking about, these confirming moments that we welcome into our daily awareness, that bring in a greater sense of confirmation, that allow us to harness and anchor into a place of trust with our intuition. And it was through all of this massaging and unraveling and boldly allowing myself to feel into this truth, this beauty of self, that became my community. My community became my spirit family. And it was my linking with them and my working with them that continues to bring me to profound realizations of self, of unity, of this, of divine realm, of universal interconnectedness. And so on a true holistic manner, spirit really is my community, and it continues to grow and it continues to foster my purpose path here in this incarnation. But as far as those in the physical form, man, they're so great. They, my husband, my children, my parents, my in-laws, everyone is like, okay, Tiff, let's see this. Let's talk about this. And I love the fierce conversations, the curious conversations that we're able to have together. And it's really cool to see kind of like their little self kind of be like, ooh, let me stretch my concept of things a little bit further. And it's this really beautiful heart linking that is so uplifting in this journey.
Well, I love that you bring up both kinds of communities for people who maybe weren't even thinking about the non-human forms of community that are even possible. We just published a little book called The Ancestors Within, by the way, y'all. Yep. And those authors are talking about that a little bit as well, and how powerful it is, right, Tiffany, to think about the fact that there's that community there too. I think that opened up my world about it anyway.
Yeah, sometimes our spiritual family, our spirit family rather, that anchor us into a greater sense of community, that remind us of just how expansive we are. And it's my spirit community, who's my spirit family, who's actually been so encouraging for me to live my greatest truth. And so it's that was the bridge to linking to my physical community.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tiffany. So Joy, how about you on this topic? I know it's a big topic and talked about a lot of things here, but what has that community meant to you?
Everything. It's meant everything. And I love what each of us is sharing today and widening my understandings again, my remembrance. These books I have written, I never tried to write a book. So this was my spiritual family saying, this needs to come through you, Joy. And my first was, I knew a lot of women, I thought it was a cult. It's women who were studying A Course in Miracles, known as ACIM. A Course in Miracles is a book channeled from Jesus through two listeners years ago, and there are groups all over the place. But I finally said, when this person personally invited me, I said, I'll try it. And she picked me up and took me to this meeting. Well, I studied that book for 7 years with my spiritual sisters. And what I want to say about when we connect with our hearts, with spiritual, physical beings, I'm just in awe of what grows from that OMG. So at this meeting, someone talks to me about her chiropractor, and I'm living with an accident in my body for 9 years. So I have goosebumps talking about this, but when we can be more vulnerable with the people in our lives, because we trust that they get us maybe at some level, our world expands immensely.
That it? You looked like you had more. I know we all have more on this topic. Okay. Yes.
I could talk and talk, but see, and these days I am leading Zooms online for women to listen, to share, to enliven lives. And this is my favorite part of my week during COVID, is sharing presence with women who want to share their hearts.
Yes, I think I'll sum up that by going to your first line. It's everything. So it really is. It has been everything. Okay, Laura, let's move to you about this one. What about community for you?
Yeah, I wanted to actually come back to the very first part of that question, and you had talked about belief and how we sometimes can't always know or see, but we believe anyway. And that's, to me, where I take it from belief really into that means faith, right? Faith is something that's not tangible. We can't prove it, we can't see it, but we know it. And the difference is, I feel like belief is led from the mind, the thinking mind, something that we know. Faith is led by the heart. So one, it's really important, and I'm so appreciating everyone sharing that we have all these ways and practices that allow us to move out of the head space and into the heart space, because when we arrive there, that's when that really can open up and blossom. And for community, it is incredibly valuable to have that to support you, because community can look like lots of different, from churches to families to maybe just people that you meet at your children's schools, other parents, but essentially it's people that don't necessarily have to agree with you or know what you know, but they support you and love you and celebrate you for who you are and give you space and the allowance and the encouragement to grow and to continue to explore. And then they're so happy to receive what you have to share with them. And yes, spirit absolutely manifests itself in this physical world. But of course, we have, the beautiful spiritual family. And I think that's really important because sometimes wherever we live or other life circumstances we have, we might not feel that we have the physical community with other human beings. It might be a moment in our life where we've felt isolated for whatever reason. But it's that remembrance that even in those moments, there's no isolation, there's no separateness because we all come from this beautiful grace of spirit.
Oh my goodness. Yes, with that exclamation point. So that is a perfect place to wrap up. I wanted all of you to hear how that particular question is important to me. I wanted you to hear about how community has changed all of these authors' lives and how it can change yours. Thank you so much. Thank you, Joy and Sherry and Laura and Tiffany, for what you're doing in the world and for being here to share it with everyone today.
Thank you, Laura. This has been.
Thank you, Laura.
So to our viewers, please drop down into the show notes because all of these author experts are hooked up with their websites. And this is not just a book, y'all. This is a community. These women are generously there for you for questions and support. And go check out what awesomeness they have and they're offering in the world, right? Take the next step. Just take the exploration. Please also join us on November 22nd at noon Eastern, when we're going to celebrate with a live stream book launch party. Yes, on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. I've got you hooked up down there with that too. You're going to find many of our authors from all of our volumes in Dianna's free group on Facebook. It's called Find Your Voice Women. I have that link down there as well. And again, you're going to be able to ask your questions and continue the conversation and continue the journey with a community that really cares about this. I think that is badass, y'all. Lastly, today, I want everyone to remember your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone. Thank you, authors.